Festivus, and time to air your fantasy grievances. Who let you down this week?
This feels even just weird to even talk about, to be honest, but I'm going to go with the Detroit offense.
Right?
It's strange to come to expect productiveness from the Detroit offense, but so far through the first 4 weeks we had, I mean, they just completely crapped the bed. Let's just go over some of the key players here. Jared Goff, 5.9 fantasy points.
Ugh.
Jamal Williams, in place of a hurt DeAndre Swift, 5.6 fantasy points, half PPR. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 3.8 half PPR points. Yes, he was hurt, but still. And TJ Hawkinson, 1.1 half PPR fantasy points.
Ugh.
Now, from a personal level, the reason I'm so let down by this is that I put Jamal Williams in the flex instead of Gabe Davis, who, as we all know, scored 30.6.
Oh, no, Jen.
Therefore, I lost my matchup because I picked Jamal Williams over Gabe Davis. Womp womp. Detroit offense crushed me this week.
I'm with you. TJ Hawkinson killed me a lot. I was very much expecting maybe not a follow-up completely from week 4, but at least a little bit more than
1.1 fantasy
right,
points.
More than 1.1. I'm with you. Detroit offense, get it together, man. Now let's get to the show. Welcome, everyone, to the most accurate podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Niles. With me are my excellent co-hosts, Jen Eakins and Chris Allen. Chris, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing okay. A little tired. Like our director of analytics, Sam Hoppin, I was also out trundling along the streets of Chicago for their marathon this year. So I'm happy to be back home. Happy to actually not have to care about what I eat and drink like for the foreseeable future, unless I get suckered into doing one of those stupid races again. But otherwise, no, it was a good time being out in Chicago. Got to spend time with our own John Daigle, a few other folks in the fantasy industry as well. So, but yeah, happy to dive into week 6 and see what the streaming options are for us.
Jen, how you doing today?
Feeling lazy. Besides Chris, I mean, because of Chris, I did not run a marathon. I did nothing this weekend. Actually, that's not true. I took my son on a little staycation. My husband was in Michigan for a fishing trip, and so I took I took my son to a hotel just in town, and we went in the pool and the hot tub and did the room service thing and did the whole little fun staycation with my son.
That's
and
really cool.
I like that. It was fun. It was a good time. So yeah. And was home on Sunday in time to enjoy some football. So yeah, not a bad weekend. Brandon, how are you doing so far here in week 6?
I'm doing good. We took the kids to OMSI, which is the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry. They had a big like Marvel exhibit, and it was nice. They had like costumes and props from the movies, and they had lots of stuff for the kids to do, and like big statues of the Marvel characters the kids could take pictures next to. So it was fun. That's what we did this weekend, and had a good time doing it. So as a reminder, this is our weekly streaming episode. We'll be emphasizing hot pickups for the primary streaming positions. That's quarterback, tight end, kicker, and defense. Let's check out week 5 results. Our sleeper streamer of the week, Chris, Ryan Tannehill, rough outing for Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans overall, 23rd. But your quarterback streamers, Geno Smith, 5th. Once again, Geno Smith, I don't know how he's still a streaming option considering the numbers he's been
People don't believe, man. People don't believe yet.
It's crazy. And you said the Saints quarterback, so I'm going to give you credit for that one, at least half credit. So Taysom Hill was 2nd, and Andy Dalton was 27th. So I'm going to split the difference and give you a half point for that, Chris.
I'll take it.
Jen, your tight ends, Robert Tonyan was 23rd. Hayden Hurst was 4th, though. And Logan Thomas is incomplete because he was a late scratch and missed the game. Hayden Hurst, 4th. Excellent for that against the Ravens. Kickers, Matthew Wright was kicker 16, which is not bad at all. Mason Crosby tied for kicker 10. Will Lutz tied for kicker 14. And then your bonus, Riley Patterson tied for kicker 20, as Jacksonville kind of crapped the bed for everybody. Defense streamers, my defense streamers, the Jags were tied for 12th. I'll take that. Titans tied for 9th. The Dolphins are just not even mentionable anymore at this point. Down to their third quarterback. Horrible defensive showing against the hapless Jets. It was ugly. I think they were dead last. So, some hits, some misses last week. I think I'll call them wins. That's what I'm going to say.
They're all wins.
Yes.
Just as a reminder, week 6 buys, our first bye weeks, Lions, Titans, Raiders, Texans, all off this week. So make sure you get your lineups adjusted in time for those bye weeks, and make sure your waiver pickups definitely account for that. So our top quarterback streamer is our sleeper streamer of the week. Chris, which quarterback is your number one sleeper streamer for week 6?
It was the guy that wound up actually saving a lot of people's fantasy weeks and my own for my recommendations for last week as well. It's Geno Smith. I mean, what has this guy got to do in order to at least graduate, I guess, from the streaming category and be at least, let's say, one of the deeper options, one of the guys that is likely has a higher rostership, but could be floating around like on your waiver wires, depending on the type of league that you're in. But no, I mean, Geno's been great. I mean, the only game that he really struggled in was the week 2 matchup against San Francisco. And I know that a lot of folks, they probably in real time, if we were going from week 1 again, when they had their big matchup and Geno ends the game and he's they wrote me off, but I'm right. I didn't write back though. That's the line but in week 2, he winds up completely falling off a cliff. And I think folks took it as a thing of that's just Geno being Geno. He pops up for a good game, has a bad game immediately afterwards. But San Francisco's defense, pick a metric, and they are either top 3 or top 5 in it in terms of pressure rates, sacks. Being able to limit opposing offenses and essentially enforcing their will upon any team that they happen to face. And I know they just lost E-Man to a torn ACL, and some of them, and also Bosa's injured as well. So it's they can have some cracks. But in week 2, I guess I can give Geno a pass for not performing well against one of the toughest defenses in the league. But now for this week, going against Arizona, they are 20th in adjusted fantasy points allowed to the quarterback position. And so far, outside of that 1 week, Geno has played not necessarily flawlessly, but especially last week when going up against, again, a tougher defense in the Saints in terms of, top 10 in pressure rate, also having at least a strong secondary as well. Being at least above average in success rate against quarterbacks. Now with going up against Arizona, who last week, I think they played fairly well. They game planned well against Jalen Hurts. Completely taking away the middle portion of the field. But Geno Smith has been lighting things up, not just along the perimeter, but also deep as well. Deep shots to Tyler Lockett last week. Deep shots to DK Metcalf as well. So if they're capable of being efficient, Geno Smith is top 5, top 6 in EPA per play, and also completion percentage over expected. It just sets up well for another game where Geno Smith is the one that's going to wind up, at the very least, a top 10 quarterback. If he gets another top 6 showing, hey, I guess I'm doing my job right. But again, Geno Smith, top streamer for week 6.
Excellent. I kind of think that Seattle-Arizona game could be a shootout, which I have a feeling we're going to mention that game again at some point this episode.
Yeah, I think so.
Jen, I wanted to ask, this Seattle offense, it's kind of thriving, and we all faded Tyler Lockett all off season, but he's playing really well. Are you comfortable enough putting him in lineups now?
If I had him, I would, but I faded him because for all the years I love Tyler Lockett, and I had to stop myself this summer. I was like, I cannot do my normal Tyler Lockett automatic draft, whatever round. I love him. I've had him every year and this year I have very, very little. I don't have him on any redraft team. I know that. So yeah, if I had him, I would feel comfortable at this point. And it's nuts. We all faded all the different parts. Other than the backfield, because we know it's Pete Carroll and we know that that's going to happen. So we did, I have my share of Penny, sadly, and I have my fair share of Walker, which is nice. But I definitely faded DK and Tyler Lockett. And I did draft Noah Fant, which is not,
that hasn't worked out.
No, I've since dropped him, but I did draft him. But yeah, I'm just as surprised as everybody else. And in one of those guillotine leagues, I scooped up Geno a couple weeks ago because I had Tua and thought it was just going to be, I don't know what I'm going to do. And now I'm just going to ride with Geno for a while because
just ride it out. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to stop as long as he's going to put up the points he's putting up. I'm going to keep him in there.
Yeah, obviously, hearts go out to Rashad Penny. Poor Rashad Penny. That kid works so hard. He's so talented. Can't stay on the field. He's just this was very freakish the way the injury looked. I feel so bad for him. And then going into a contract year, I hope he gets paid, and I hope he comes back healthy and just thrives. Do you have any concerns, Jen, with the Seattle offense without Penny, or do you think they're going to keep humming with Walker in there?
I think they're going to keep humming as long as they can. I mean, I kind of feel like there's a point that maybe the rug will be pulled, and we're not sure if this is real or not real. But for now, while they continue to produce, it's kind of exciting. I'm not a big fan of Pete Carroll, and I'm not really a big fan of, but at the same time, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of cool to watch what they've done with everybody completely was like, absolutely not. You're looking at either Geno Smith or Drew Lock, and everyone avoided both of them. And, it was not something that anybody was thinking was going to be a fruitful offense. And they've completely proved all of us wrong. So it's kind of fun, even though I don't love the whole Seattle 12-man thing. I find it a little obnoxious on my, as a fan, just as, a side thing. But from a fantasy perspective, it's pretty cool to watch.
Sure. Yeah, I love it. Okay. Sorry, I got us all distracted there talking about Seattle. I thought there were things to mention. Chris, I know you've got another quarterback for us. Who else can we look to for a streaming option this week?
So it's a little bit, it's definitely not as sexy as the Geno Smith pick. But
I don't know. You've got Jimmy Garoppolo up there and you're saying not sexy. I don't know, man.
Well, that's fair. That's a good point. Actually, as I was saying it, I was like, oh yeah, like people do actually think he's a pretty handsome dude. So not gonna lie. But all right, so it's Jimmy Garoppolo, and this one is just more for the fact, like,
not football sexy, but regular sexy.
Yeah,
exactly.
He definitely leads the league in handsomeness.
Yeah,
that's true.
100%. And I think it's not just the thing about like Jimmy, because right now San Francisco, they're 30th, if I'm remembering correctly, in pass rate over expectation, like through the last like few weeks, and they're going up against Atlanta this week. So I do think that matchup at least bodes well enough, like for him to be considered as a deeper option, because as of right now, like through 5 weeks of play, every single quarterback that's faced them has accounted for at least one touchdown, whether it's passing or running. Because Jacoby Brissett, he didn't pass for one like when they played against the Browns, but he did actually rush one in from like the 4 or 5 yard line. So while we can't expect Jimmy Garoppolo to turn into like Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen or anything like that, he's at least capable enough to move the ball against what is a weaker defensive front. I mean, in terms of like pressure rate, they're about league average, but their secondary, I mean, they are allowing the third most passing yards, like of any team, like in the league. So could Jimmy Garoppolo have, let's say, one of those, I don't know, something along like what was Tom Brady's stat line from this week was like 315 passing yards and 1 touchdown. That's good enough, right? Yeah, for at least our purposes. And I do think, at least with the way that Jimmy Garoppolo has been playing, he's got the guys to create yards after the catch. George Kittle is starting to look like an actual human being or like an actual NFL player over the last like week or so. And so if he gets all of those guys in play, and like throw in Deebo Samuel, of course, and then Brandon Niles, any of the rest of those guys, and then he could at least have a decent passing game, toss in a touchdown, you've got yourself at least a QB 14-ish like type of option right now in Jimmy Garoppolo. So going against Atlanta Falcons, not the worst play possible, at least for a deeper play.
I kind of like it, on a week where we've got bye weeks and injuries and all kinds of things going on. I kind of like grabbing Jimmy G for a week streaming option. I kind of like that, Chris.
Yeah, I think it's easier. I mean, to go for, the floor option. It just depends on where you're at in your matchup, right? It depends on where you're at, like in your season. Because if you're sitting at like, I don't know, like 3-2, maybe 4-1, because you've happened to like hop along and like kind of fall into the Geno Smiths or like the Carson Wentz like big games, but avoided some of his floor games. I mean, it's entirely possible for you to kind of like ride this 1 week and then wait for some of the guys to either come off bye or whatever the case may be. So it's possible.
And I'm going to be honest with you. I know Geno Smith is the sleeper streamer of the week, but Geno Smith he's rostered at 42%, which is a little higher than Jimmy G, who's down at 29%. So I think that if you can't get Geno Smith as your sleeper streamer of the week, I know I'm going to be grabbing Jimmy G in a few sleeper leagues. And don't forget, Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy platform. It's got excellent custom settings for fantasy commissioners, dynasty, redraft, IDP, you name it. It's my favorite thing about Sleeper is that you can customize it to your preferences in all kinds of fantasy leagues. It's easily accessible, wildly mobile friendly. So go download the app and join or start a league today. Jen, before we get to your streamers, I heard that Charlie the Bacon Guy, our friend, had a question he wanted us to discuss. Chris?
Oh yeah.
Oh, he's putting on his merch.
I know. I gotta rep.
I'm still waiting for some bacon.
I got to put in another order too, but no, Charlie the Bacon Guy. If you can, go ahead and look him up. I was in Chicago. I should have tried to stop.
Gotten us all some bacon.
I've gotten you guys some bacon or something like that. That's
not Brandon, but I'll take his.
But no, if you listener out there want to be a non-paid and non-affiliated sponsor of the show,
send Chris free things.
Yes. Send me free stuff and you'll get your trade read out aloud on the podcast.
Jen wants free things too. So
exactly. Okay. And so Charlie, you're hearing that. Get something to Jen too, please. But no, this is the trade in a redraft league. So he had Devin Duvernay and Raheem Mostert, sent both of them away, and actually acquired Derrick Henry and David Njoku in a trade. I believe, if I remember correctly, the scoring settings were full PPR. I think he knocked this trade out of the park. Top to bottom. I think he absolutely knocked it out of the park. From what it sounds like, he also had, I believe, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase up at the top of his roster too. So he's already has at least decent quarterback one. I don't even want to get into the conversation about Jamar Chase right now. I'm still upset about Sunday night, but
there's a lot to be upset about with Jamar Chase right now.
Yeah, but on paper, this is a legit squad with the running back and also taking in what is Njoku right now? What, the tight end 6, tight end 8, somewhere in there, on the season so far. So I couldn't think of a better trade myself. So hats off to you, Charlie. Well, I'm going to keep my hat on at this point.
I agree. And if it makes you feel better, Charlie, I will say I've seen Derrick Henry go in a lot of keeper and dynasty leagues this year, a lot of teams blowing up their roster, and I've yet to see him go without a first involved. So the fact that you were able to get him for a second at Raheem Mostert and Devin Duvernay, even without Njoku in the 7th, is a good value to me, and I think sets you up really well for the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like it too. I will say first of all, I just looked. David Njoku is tight end 8 in both total half PPR points and half PPR points a game. So cool. He is tight end 8. I like it. I think that right now running back is very disgusting. There's nobody out there. So to get someone like Henry, even if it is a PPR league, whatever, he started catching passes all of a sudden, which is great. So I think it's a good trade. I like it. I would do it if it were me.
Excellent.
So there you go, Charlie. The crew loves your trade. Keep doing stuff like that, and I'll put another order for some bacon here soon.
Let's do another trade talk real quick before we get to your tight ends and kickers, Jen. Nick has a 10-team PPR, is undefeated, has Lamar Jackson, Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Travis Kelce, and some other guys. Wants to know what they can trade to get Dameon Pierce. I'm not sure what you want to do to break up that team. I don't know that anyone's going to move Dameon Pierce right now unless they're getting Chase, CD, Kelce, or McCaffrey in that trade, and I don't know that helps you. So that's kind of where I'm at. Not so much what would I trade, but what would the person accept, and I don't see something that works immediately. What do you think, Jen, Chris?
Well, I think it depends on who Nick has at wide receiver. I mean, if he's, if he's hurting, because Nick has, between Chase, CD, Godwin, I mean, Jacoby Myers is even coming on. If this guy or gal is hurting at receiver, you may be able to, give away one of the guys that maybe you don't need, like, package a Jacoby Myers and a Godwin or whatever, something like that, to be able to get Pierce. But it's tough to know, without knowing the other side or what you're looking for. But that's my 2 cents.
Sure. Chris, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's outlandish, but I mean, like, the easiest thing for him to probably move, like, for Dameon Pierce. I mean, yeah, the guy that has Pierce on his roster is 0-5, but you're gonna have to really, like, send him something that's going to allow him to make up for the fact that he's losing essentially an RB1, like, on his squad. So you'd have to look at. I mean, I don't do 1-for-1 trades, so, like, I know that Dameon Pierce for, like, Lenny plus or something along those lines. But I mean, you could try and, like, deal Lamar and see if you want to go the quarterback streaming route. Wouldn't be the best. I mean, but otherwise it's like, yeah, I would go Jen's route of trying to flip, like, one of the wide receivers that are doing well, but it just depends on what their roster looks like at that particular position.
Sure. Yep. Makes sense. So there you go, Nick. Good luck. I know we didn't give you a rock solid, here's the path to get Dameon Pierce, but he's hard to get right now. People love Dameon Pierce. He's doing really, really well. Okay. All right. So Jen, tight end streamers,
Yes.
is it a good or a bad week to stream tight ends?
Listen, it's a week, right? I mean, tight end is as ugly as it's, I think, ever been. I feel like we say this every year, and here we are. And it's funny because I finally got rid of writing the tight end streaming article, and I'm having these weird, like, flashbacks to here I am again preparing tight end streamers for this pod. But it's ugly. I mean, it's ugly out there, not gonna lie. But whatever, there's some decent options this week. So I'll say it's a 6 out of 10 week to stream tight ends. But all right, let's get into it, shall we? So the first guy is really for our producer Sal. Not necessarily my top streamer of the week. I don't even know if you can qualify him as a tight end, but he is a tight end on some sites. So I'm gonna go Taysom Hill at home versus Cincinnati. I mean, I'm finally giving in, right? I mean, first of all, I don't have him on any teams, and you can't really get him now, and I don't know how long this is going to live, this whole Taysom Hill thing. However, the Saints are hurting, right? I mean, we don't know. Jameis Winston has a hurt back. We're dealing with Andy Dalton, so insert Taysom Hill there. Michael Thomas still out, still hurt. Insert Taysom Hill there, and then now we've got Olave, who is also dealing with a concussion. He's out, or he's questionable for now. So once again, insert Taysom Hill. So Taysom Hill is going to be doing things this week. Whether, like I said, he qualifies as tight end or not, that's not for me to determine. I know some sites he's a tight end, some sites he's a quarterback. He should really be neither. I don't know, whatever he is. But either way, he's playing Cincinnati. The Bengals are 21st in adjusted fantasy points allowed to the tight end position. I don't even know if we can even use that stat because, like I said, not a tight end. But either way, Taysom Hill is on 31% of Yahoo rosters right now. So if you need a tight end and he qualifies as one on whatever site you're playing on, there's one option.
Chris, real quick, I not to cut you off. If Taysom Hill is a quarterback on your site and at that 31% Yahoo rostership, is he streamable at quarterback, or is it way too risky with Dalton there?
No, 100%. Like, I would still wind up, like, putting him there just because it's not just the rushing, although his rushing stats are actually hilarious.
Silly. Just silly.
he has more rushing yards than Najee Harris. Like, what do we like? It's like, okay. Yeah. So it's like he's doing it off of, like, ridiculous efficiency, but if he's also mixing in, like, the passes and they're still doing the same stuff, like the cute stuff around in the red zone that Sean Payton was doing, if all of those packages, like the Taysom Hill package, is getting larger like every single week, and they're still doing that crazy stuff around the goal line, then sure, why not? If your best option, like if I was just mentioning Jimmy G as a deeper option, I mean, Taysom Hill has a much higher ceiling than Jimmy G. So if you're going back to the evaluation, like looking at your matchup type of thing that I was talking about earlier, if you need some punch, yeah, I would probably go Hill like over Jimmy G.
Awesome. And somebody needs to check on our producer, Sal. He may have fainted from all the positivity coming out from Taysom Hill. So I hope Sal's doing okay. Jen, let's talk about your other tight ends.
Okay. So second guy on the list is Hayden Hurst. The other side of that game in New Orleans. He's also 31% rostered on Yahoo. I mean, Hayden Hurst is not exactly, he's not getting a ton of targets, but he's getting in the end zone. I mean, he's found the end zone twice in the last 2 games. T. Higgins is banged up, so that might open up a little more opportunities for Hurst this week. Hopefully he'll get in for the 3rd week in a row. New Orleans is no slouch, though. I mean, they are 5th in tight end adjusted fantasy points allowed, so it's not the best matchup for him. I just think opportunity-wise in that offense with T. Higgins still banged up, Hurst may see some more, and he's been, consistently putting up fantasy points in a brutal tight end landscape. So he's my second guy. 3rd guy, I actually have 4 this week, so I'm going to throw an extra one in there because Taysom Hill is kind of a, I don't know if he counts, but whatever. So 3rd guy I'm going to talk about this week is Will Dissly. We talked about that game, the Seattle-Arizona game. It has right now the over/under is 52. I think it's the second. Wow. I think it's the second highest on the slate. So I think on both sides it's going to be pretty much a shootout. But yeah, I mean, right now, Will Dissly is tight end 11 in half PPR points a game, which is kind of ridiculous, but he is. And, the Arizona is, Arizona is 31st in adjusted fantasy points allowed to tight end. So that's, second to last. Kelsey dropped 22.1 points in week 1. Higbee, your favorite, dropped 14.2 in week 2. And then Dallas Goedert just, put up 13.5 last week. So Will Dissly is an option in that offense. If Geno's dealing, then, Dissly's taken, I guess, or something.
I think Seattle's 32nd in adjusted fantasy points allowed to the tight end position.
Right.
So
I mean,
Ertz and Dissly, man.
I know Ertz is not available for streaming, or I would have definitely put him on there. But yeah, both those guys should go off. I do have one bonus tight end that I'm going to throw in there, and that is Daniel Bellinger of the Giants.
I love it.
Yeah, playing Baltimore. He's 1% rostered. So this is, deep cut if you're in a deep league. Looking for a guy, he's averaging 3.6 targets a game over the last 3 games. There's not a lot of bodies left in New York. I mean, let's be real. There's not a lot. So he is an option there. Baltimore's 28th in tight end adjusted fantasy points allowed. And, last week, Hurst just put up a 14.3 on him and found the end zone. So if you need a guy, Daniel Bellinger is there. One more, I'm going to give you a 5th because why not? Well, I'm not
surprise 5th. I love it.
Surprise 5th. I'm not even going to talk a lot about it, but when we're talking deep cuts, Pat Freiermuth suffered his 3rd concussion in 2 years. Zach Gentry, random, but if you need him, he's probably 0% rostered. Not the best matchup this week. I can't remember who they're playing, but he is in my actual streaming article. But so I just threw in a 5th there just for those of you listening that may be in like a 16, 18 team league and there's nothing out there. Zach Gentry probably is.
The Bucks. That's what they play.
Thank you. And yeah, I knew it wasn't a good matchup. Yeah.
In those deep leagues, I just wanted to ask, Greg Dulcich was designated return from IR, so they have 21 days to activate him. I don't know if he'll be active this week. Is now a time to maybe pick him up or?
Yeah, he was in my stash article last week.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should definitely pick him up. It's tough though because it's been a rotating carousel of tight ends in Denver. Maybe they'll decide to go with him. They really liked him in the preseason, but it's been that the duo of Eric Sauerbird and Tomlinson, and then Alberto. It's been kind of a lot of nothing at the tight end position for Denver. But Dulcich may be a guy that, like you said, in those deeper leagues, grab him because you never know. He may stand out once he gets back.
Excellent. Bryce wanted to know if they should accept Jamar Chase and Tyler Lockett for Cooper Kupp. I just am not eager to trade Cooper Kupp, so I wouldn't do that. Any disagreement?
No, I don't think I want to do that.
Yeah, let's just keep Cooper Kupp. Michael asked, should I trade Henry, Debo, DK, Goddard for Kupp, Lamb, Connor, and Pitts? That's a big one. I have to look at it for a second
Henry
for an 8-player trade. So you're getting a bunch of hurt guys.
Yeah.
Kupp and Lamb. I'd probably keep Henry, Debo, DK, and Goddard, but I don't really care. I'm okay.
Pitts and Connor are hurt too. I mean, you're basically getting 3 hurt guys in Kupp.
Yeah, I think I'd rather keep the running back depth if I possibly could by holding on to Henry. It looks cool with Kupp on the other side, but then you see like Pitts, James Conner.
Goddard's been good.
Goddard's fine.
Yeah, Debo's great.
So, DK's solid too.
Mm-hmm. I'd probably hold on.
I'd keep all that.
Okay. All right. Jen, let's talk kickers.
Everybody's favorite segment.
That's
really just mine, but I'm all about it. So, okay. So kicker, once again, I'm going to bring up that Arizona-Seattle game because here we are again, shootout, points, kicker, all that stuff. So my number one kicker this week, first of all, before I even get into this, kicker is the weirdest I've ever seen it. You guys know I've been doing kicker and covering kicker for 7 seasons now for 4for4, and this is the most like injury crazy that it's ever been. I mean, where it's like every day there's a new name. I don't even know who that is. I don't know who's kicking for this team. So that's kind of where we are. So my number one kicker this week is insert Arizona kicker at Seattle. Matt Prater has a hip injury. He's only 14% rostered. So if he does come back, solid pickup. You got Matt Amendola, who's only 1% rostered. He kicked last week. However, he did miss a game-tying field goal for them. So they may decide to switch it up and bring someone completely new in this week that we don't know about. So it's just kind of like whoever ends up kicking for Arizona is in a great spot. Like I said, the over-under in that game is 52. Arizona is right now favored by 2.5 on the road, and their team implied total is 26.75. So whoever ends up kicking, I think is my streamer of the week. Hopefully it's Matt Prater. I mean, I don't know. It's tough to tell with a hip. I don't know how, last year Rodrigo Blankenship had a hip and never came back. So it's tough to tell. But so that's my number one kicker, whether it's Prater, Amendola, or other. Whoever is the Arizona kicker is my guy there. Second guy is another twofer, unfortunately, and that is going to be either Dustin Hopkins or Taylor Bertolette. I'm sure that you've never heard of Taylor Bertolette. Taylor Bertolette put up 12 fantasy points last week for the Chargers.
Yes, he did. Right. And I went, who is this guy?
I know, right? So Dustin Hopkins has a quadriceps injury. So whether or not it's him, Hopkins is 18% rostered. Bertolette is still a big fat zero as far as rostered. So either one of those guys, the Chargers are favored by 5.5, and they are implied for 25.75 points. So, once again, a good pickup, either one of those guys. Third kicker in this is the other side of that Arizona game, and that is Jason Myers at home against Arizona. He's only 3% rostered. He's been doing well. He's had 3 double-digit fantasy points in a row. I mean, once again, just like all of Seattle offense has surprised us, it trickles down to the kicker too. So they are actually the underdogs at home in that game, like I said, by 2.5 points. But they're still implied for 24.25. So, once again, he's kind of your deep cut guy because he's available in 97% of leagues. But Jason Myers is, solid. He's, like I said, 3 double-digit games in a row. Can't really beat that.
It really seems weird. Not only is kicker the results, not only have the results been, throw a dart compared to recent seasons, it's also we have consistent weeks where we don't know who's going to be kicking. We have teams that are dropping their kicker to their practice squad on Mondays and then elevating them Saturdays. Like that's happening regularly.
Yeah, I mean, I had to put one other clause in my streaming article this week. Robbie Gould is hurt. He's got a knee injury, and they don't have anyone. They did sign Sam Sloman today, so. Once again, he's playable this week as well. If they stay with Sam Sloman by the weekend, who knows? They signed him today, but and Robbie, I mean, I don't know. I would think a knee injury probably inhibits kicking, regardless of which leg it is. So, Sam Sloman
is a plant leg.
Oh, is it? I would think either one is probably not great to have. Yeah. I mean, you have a knee injury right now. Could you get out there and plant and kick? Chris?
If they paid me hundreds of thousands of dollars, I would certainly try.
But yeah, so, it's a very weird week. And like I said in my article, I will continue to update it as the week goes on, just because it's such a cluster and there's just like a revolving door of kickers on pretty much every team. There's like not very many solid kickers at the moment, which is pretty weird.
It's crazy. So Chris, do I get a cut if I come and pick you up off the field after you try?
I'll give you 5% of whatever I earn for that for my game check.
Deal. I'm in. I think that's perfect.
Are you going to get tackled by somebody if you run out there, Brandon, to do that?
Maybe it's very. If is
that's
Bobby
been
Wagner
happening a lot. Hasn't that also been happening a lot?
Bobby Wagner.
It seems like it.
Yeah, people getting tackled on the field. Players shoving personnel and all that.
Devontae Adams shoved like a photographer or something like that. That's
it's just violence all on the field. Like it's
no good at all. I tell you, I need to get into bowling. I bet that doesn't happen in bowling. That's.
I'm sure they have their own share of
and their own fights in bowling.
Yeah.
They're holding large blunt objects. That's got to be concerning.
Murder weapons.
Dylan, I agree with Sal, our producer, who responded and said that Debo's ranked higher. I like Debo better than AJ Brown rest of the season, even though both are really good options. Chris or Jen, do you disagree?
No, I don't disagree.
Okay.
I
All right.
kind of like AJ Brown, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
My concern about Philly's offense is what's the stat? Like 80% of Jalen Hurts' production comes in the first half. Like they've been just so willing to take the foot off the gas, like once
That is true.
they generate a lead. And while AJ Brown, he still has like one of the highest target shares. If you go to our player stat explorer tool that Sam Hoppen, our director of analytics, has put together over at 4for4.com. I mean, he's still up. I mean, AJ Brown ranks up there like target share, air yard share, like all the things that we want for wide receivers. But if the volume, like total volume, isn't there, like relative to the rest of the guys in the league, it's kind of worrisome. That's really like my only hesitation. That's all.
And Jalen Hurts has actually been really good at spotting double coverage and checking down to his second read. And that's often been Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert after A.J. Brown is doubled. And A.J. Brown is doubled constantly. So Jalen Hurts playing well is kind of hurting AJ Brown a little bit.
Yes.
In that regard, just a little bit, but both are good. I don't have like bad things to say about either player. So let's talk defenses. Number one, the Jacksonville Jaguars are at 71%, but if you grabbed them last week, they have the Colts this week. Hold on to them. I think they'll do better against the Colts than they did against the Texans and be back to that top 10. They were top 12 last week, so I guess they weren't bad. But back to the top 10 showing on defense. So I said last week to grab them and to hold them for this week. That would still be my top streamer. But if you're looking for somebody right now, go check and see if the Patriots are available. They're at 42%, which is 2% higher than the threshold we go for. I'm cheating a little bit, but they're available in literally all my redraft leagues. I don't have a single redraft league where the Patriots aren't available. Their numbers right now are a little bit skewed because they just blanked the Detroit Lions, but they're still a really good defense. Bill Belichick knows how to coach defense. They're tied for 8th in sacks with 13, tied for 8th in the league in takeaways. Those are the things I like to look at. And then they face the Browns. The Browns, they're not as bad as they've been as expected offensively this year. They've been pretty good. But New England's a really good defense, and it's still Jacoby Brissett. Bill Belichick knows Jacoby Brissett. Bill Belichick does a pretty good job with game plans trying to contain opposing offense's best weapons. And right now, that's pretty much Nick Chubb. So I think that's going to be a low-scoring game, and I think that's going to result in a top 12 finish for the Patriots defense. So I think it's a big step down after that. But I don't mind the flip side of that either. I think the Patriots may win that game. The Browns may win that game. But either way, I think it's going to be a low scoring. So if you get the Browns defense at 15%, I'm okay with that too. New England is 19th in points scored this year, and they've got Bailey Zappi or they've got an injured Mac Jones. So either one of those options is appealing to me with the Cleveland pass rush going after them and a pretty good secondary for Cleveland. They're not getting turnovers right now, but I think with those quarterbacks, that could change this week. Again, I think it's going to be a low scoring affair. Also going to look at Chicago versus Washington. Carson Wentz is always a nice one to bank against occasionally. I know he's had some good games this year. He's also had some stinkers. Chicago's tied for 10th in the league with 5 interceptions. Kyler Gordon's playing really well as a rookie, and the secondary is kind of piecing together the youth on that defense. The team looks a little better every week. It's baby steps, right? It's baby steps, but they're looking a little better every week. They're tied for 8th in takeaways, and Washington is 26th in points per game. They're also banged up. So I know they've got Brian Robinson back. I'm so glad to see him healthy, but the wide receiver core is banged up right now. And again, Yosemite Wentz out there just throwing around. So we'll see what happens. I think some turnovers are possible and maybe another low scoring affair there. So Patriots, Jacksonville, if you can handle those two, that's great. If you're desperate, Browns and Bears are options for you as well. So that's all I've got this week. Jen, Chris, any final thoughts before we say goodbye for the week?
No. I got nothing. I got nothing.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, Chris, on your marathon, finishing a marathon. It's something I haven't done, and it sounds insane to me. So congratulations.
Yeah, don't do it.
Huge.
Yeah. unless you're like, young and all that, I wouldn't advise it because
I'm not young or all that. So I'm definitely not going to use that.
I'm retiring after this one. I'm retiring from marathons. That's it for me. So yeah,
going into kicking. That's going into
I'm going into backup kicking in the NFL. it's going to be lucrative. So yeah, me and you, Brandon, we're going to make some money.
We got a plan.
It was my idea. What do you mean? Why am I getting shut out of this thing?
You didn't ask for a cut of my paycheck. Brandon asked. What do you want me to say?
It was implied. It was my idea.
You got to see the deal when it's there, Jen. You got to see it.
All right.
You got to go after
now,
it.
Since you're complaining about it, you get 1%. There. You get
no. I want her to have an equal share as me. I don't want anything on Twitter about this. That's
fair.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris and Jen. Always a pleasure. Listeners, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at The Monday Mommy, at Chris Allen FFWX, and at 2 Guys Brandon. Thanks for checking us out and have a good day.